Okay. Here we go. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Great. So welcome everybody to our June PCAC committee meeting. We have a packed agenda today, lots of news and very important speaker that will be joining us in the area of 1 p.m. So without further ado, can we get approval of today's agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. I second.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. How about the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, may we get a move to approve them?
Make a motion to approve the minutes. The minutes were excellent.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'll
Great.
second it.
Terrific. So why don't we move into the chair's report? There's been a lot happening, needless to say, at the MTA. In the last day, of course, we have learned that the system, that someone tried to hack into the MTA. Cybersecurity is a big issue, and perhaps our speaker will touch on that today. But no harm was done, fortunately. The hack was discovered relatively quickly. They were locked out, and further steps were taken to improve the non-hackability of the MTA's systems. A third-party cybersecurity consultant, Diamant, was brought on board, and they are making it even tougher in every area for us to be hacked. And needless to say, this is a great concern. The MTA has been talking about cybersecurity for many years and has taken steps to make sure they are impervious to this. Nobody is 100% impervious, as everybody is learning, unfortunately, with the latest Colonial Pipeline and other issues. But several organizations were hacked at the time the MTA was hacked. And I guess we're fortunate that we have the security that we have, and it's going to get even tougher. So that's very good news. I'm sure everybody has seen the Take the Train campaign. Ridership is building, which is wonderful for everybody and for the MTA's bottom line and for New York's return to normalcy, or what will the new normal be, depending on how many days a week people are commuting. But the Take the Train campaign is highlighting some wonderful summertime destinations: Walkway over the Hudson in Poughkeepsie, Riverwalk in Tarrytown, Bethpage State Park on the island, Greenport Village, Port Jefferson Village. Just some really great ads out there. Hopefully you've seen them. The MTA is taking great steps to make itself environmentally friendly, not the least of which is increasing the number of electric buses that will be in operation by the end of 2021. It will be 60. It originally was scheduled to have 45. So we are ramping up to an all-electric bus fleet, which is promised by 2040. The cleaning that took place while the shutdowns were in place, first the 4-hour overnight shutdown and then the 2-hour overnight shutdown, is continuing. Stations and cars are being cleaned as frequently as before, maybe not in the exact same places as before, because obviously there is 24-hour service now, but the cleanliness is there. I've been riding and I see it, and most people notice how clean the system is. There was a big to-do at the last MTA board meeting about how many police officers we have versus what we were told we had. That was quite a demonstration of not being on the same page between the NYPD and the MTA and the mayor's office and the MTA. But the fact is we do have 2,663 officers. They are not all in place all the time. Obviously, there are shifts, there are emergencies above ground or below ground if you're talking about an elevated line, but there are a lot more police than there were before. I have noticed them lately. Hopefully this will, this in cooperation with the additional cameras that are being installed, 70% of the subway system is now camera enabled. Maybe these perpetrators will realize it doesn't pay because you will be caught. So we obviously need some mental health assistance from the city of New York. The MTA is not a social service agency, but everybody is talking the right talk, and we are very hopeful that by summer things will be pretty much back. Obviously, tourism is an important part of that. The Broadway theaters won't open until September, but we believe that we have seen evidence that Times Square is getting crowded again without the theaters. And a lot of stores are really packed in the area, and restaurants appear to be busy. So that is all good news. Let's see. As far as finances go, revenues appear to be coming in above what was budgeted. We expected this would happen. The McKinsey estimate for when people will likely return, or 80 or 90% of people will return, was, I think, somewhat pessimistic. People appear to be coming back more quickly than was anticipated, and revenues are coming back. That is not to say fare evasion is not a big issue. It is. I see it all the time. And police officers I see on the system mention it to me as well. The MTA is currently putting together the July financial plan. When we have that, we will share it. We obviously don't have it yet. As far as capital construction, the capital program has resumed and things are sort of full speed ahead. Not totally, but in good stead, they are full speed ahead. You've all seen the governor's announcement about East Side Access. A lot of the major construction has been completed. The tunnels are complete. The Harold interlocking has been completed, and apparently that service will begin around December of 2022. We look forward to that. The new Elmont station over the Belt Parkway near the racetrack is proceeding on schedule, and the outbound side is expected to be open later this year. The Penn Access program is now resuming, and an environmental impact statement is being drafted for that. And this includes 4 new Bronx stations, 3 of which are far from subway. So this is great news for Bronx residents who haven't had rail service. We look forward to that greatly. As far as vaccinations, over 11,000 people have gotten the vaccines that have been given out in subway stations, which is a huge success. So that was a great idea. Plus an additional 200 MTA security officers have been hired. That, in addition to the now upped number of police officers and the cameras that are being installed, should help the crime situation greatly. Lastly, I will just point out that I'm sure everyone has heard about the lawsuit that Curb has filed against the MTA. The MTA had prepared an RFP and was going to do a procurement for 4 accessoride provider companies with a new system that they were putting in place. And Curb, because it had advanced knowledge that they were the highest bidder, was disqualified. So Curb went to court and got a temporary restraining order. So the MTA was enjoined from actually doing this procurement at last month's board meeting. I'm told by Tom Quigley that it is expected to be adjudicated before next month's full board meeting, at which time they will do a procurement. No accessoride users are out of luck during this interim period. All the services are operating as were. So we wait to see what will happen in court and if the MTA will be allowed to proceed. Basically, that's pretty much it for my report. We do expect the arrival of the first batch of R211, the R211 fleet to come on the property within a month or 2, and we will see how those cars perform. We won't be getting the open gangway portion of that order as soon as the test cars that are coming, but we expect that we will possibly get a sample train of those later in the year as well. And that's pretty much it for my board report. And I think that we now need to go to the Long Island Railroad Chair's report. Jerry.
All right, I'm just going to hit the highlights. The biggest one is we have a new member, the first new member in a couple of years. We welcome Christy Tolbert from Wyandanch. I had a Zoom interview with the governor's office, and it appears that my name will be submitted to the Senate for confirmation for my appointment to the MTA board. Hopefully that will happen on Monday. And hopefully I'll be seated in time for the June 23rd board meeting. On May 24th, I spoke at Senate Majority Leader Schumer's press conference at the Merrick Station, along with Lisa Randy, New York State Senator Todd Kaminsky, and several commuters, calling for the IRS to allow commuters to access pre-tax money from their wage works and transit check accounts. We know Senator Schumer is pushing the IRS. As of this time, we don't have any information back on that, but if the Senate Majority Leader can't make this happen, I don't know who can. So other than that, the big news is the Long Island Railroad is working with one of their vendors on a pilot program for a dual mode battery electric retrofitted M7 trains. They're hoping they can get that start running on the Oyster Bay line within the next year. These trains would be battery operated. They would be charged, say at the terminus, which would be Oyster Bay. And then we're hoping if all works well, they will have enough power to get to the electrified line in East Williston and continue on into the city. Again, this is a work in progress, and we'll keep you posted as we hear things. Andrew already mentioned about East Side Access, the governor's announcement. He took the press through the other day. We had a meeting with the MTA's Inspector General regarding the homeless problem in Penn Station and throughout the MTA system. This is something that is on their radar, and they are working with the providers to see what they can do about making things better. And they have given the providers a checklist of items that they need to address. And I believe, at least if I'm not correct, they've done 5 of 9 or something like that on the checklist.
They were working their way through. They were about 5 of 9, yes.
All righty. And then on May 7th, the New York State Senate held a hearing regarding the East River Tunnel repairs and East Side Access. Lisa testified for us. There was some talk about perhaps repairing these tunnels using the same system that they used on the L line trains. Amtrak is pushing back on that. So there is no resolution, but it's on the radar. There's discussion. The worst case scenario, they will start work on the East River tunnels within the next year or so once Seaside Access comes on board. And that's basically all of the big news. The rest of it's kind of minutia that you can just read in my report that was sent to you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Randy.
Yes,
Metro North.
I'm happy, very happy to report that Walter Zulik joined the MNRCC this week. It's been actually, I just checked, it's been over 5 years since we got our last member, Orrin. So hopefully things will move along. We're still way under in all 3 councils, but keep our fingers crossed. Maybe there'll be some action that. If they're hearing about the task force since they started it, I finally was able to get to schedule an appearance, and I did that last week at Grand Central Terminal. Mass compliance was very good, as it has been on all the trains, New Jersey Transit as well, Metro North, and the subways that and LIRR, I've ridden them all in the last month or so, and I'm very happy to see that. I was lucky to be able to get on a East Side Access tour last week, and I'll tell you, it's been a huge improvement. I'm sorry. It looks like it's almost done. It isn't, but it looks completely different from my first trip back in 2010. And I was reminiscing with Jerry earlier. We had to wear these very heavy muck boots and heavy coats. And then we walked down, it seemed like an eternal number of stairs to get to the lower level. And we got on these mining trains that were running on a very narrow gauge track, and it only went so far. Then from there, we had to get out and walk through water and mud. And I mean, this is like a difference of day and night. And they have really since Jana has been there, they have really done an outstanding job. And we look forward to it opening next December. As Jerry mentioned about the wage works, and hopefully the Senate leader can get something done. Everything else is in my report. So if anybody, I'm not going to read it because of time, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions about any of the reports you have heard thus far?
Andrew, Chris, I raised my
Okay,
hand, but
Chris.
my hand got disappeared. I actually have a question for Jerry, but it's actually a compliment. Jerry, just to let you know, since we did start the Cannonball train this last week, I have to tell you, we're getting a lot of compliments since that train has been running, even on the Thursday and a Friday. They actually they don't have to do that no more reserve thing anymore, because now a lot of them said, oh, what a difference to sit on a train, not, worrying about, get where we can sit. That's what I'm hearing from the last couple of days. Even people I'm seeing even email on Facebook and complimenting like crazy about it. They're so glad to see that train is back running, and it's actually makes it easy for the accessibility for seniors and people with disability who wants to go out to the West Hamptons or Montauk. It's like a breather.
And an hour and 41 minutes from Penn Station to West Hampton. You can't beat that.
Oh, certainly can.
Sometimes, Andrew, try it again. Try an hour and 30. They did
Yeah,
get a
that's
record.
even better.
Yeah. But I do want to thank Jerry. I just want to let Jerry know that there's a lot of compliments coming out of the Long Island Railroad end about that Cannonball
Well,
train.
the compliments go to Phil Lang, because he's the one who got this back on board for us.
But Phil also said to compliment you guys. So I'm just.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a team effort. That's the one thing I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm just hopeful that when they change the schedule again in mid-June, they increase some of the weekend trains.
Yes, and
We might have
I'm
to be on
guessing
alert
that
on that.
everyone
I'm
has.
hearing there is, because it's been going to orange to red on the weekends.
Oh, that's proof of an increased ridership. Everybody's got cabin fever after a year of the pandemic. They want to be out.
Doubt about
Including
that.
you, Andrew?
We all want to be out.
Yeah.
I don't know what that beep was. That wasn't here though. Does anyone have any questions on any of the reports? Lisa, did you want to give an update on a few things? Our speaker will be on at 1 o'clock for sure.
Our speaker will be on at 1 o'clock. We have a very important piece of business to take care of. Let me actually also pull up the agenda. Hold on, which I had up here. Why don't we do we want to do our business now?
Why not?
I would suggest that to make sure we don't lose anyone.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, we still got the
I
quorum.
agree.
yes.
Yep, while we have a quorum.
All right. So this is the first of these elections that I'm proceeding over. I'm not proceeding over it. I'm observing it. Although as such, I am proceeding in some ways because I have several proxy votes to read back. This is the changing of the guard, right? Randy, I think you should proceed over this.
Okay, well, the term for the chair is 4 years, and so I had it from 2013 to 2017. I turned it over to Andrew, and now Andrew is finishing his 4th year. So we'll hold the election today, and the way it works is that the previous chair becomes first vice chair. So now Andrew will get that position when we conclude the voting. And then I get bounced out to second vice chair. And if I'm still here in 4 years, I come back again as the as the next person. And so the effective date, even though we vote today, I think it's effective July 1st, or is it effective today? I think it's July 1st. The new term
Yeah, I
begins.
believe it's July 1st.
July 1st. So I will make the nomination that Jerry become our PCAC chair, and all the other titles bounce back one, and I guess we need a second.
I second it.
Okay, do we have any discussion? All right, so then I'll make a motion that we move with the agenda with the election of Jerry and
Are we going to use the electronic hands or just the physical hands or combination of the two to vote?
You could always do a roll call too. Roll call
yeah,
vote.
why don't
I
we
don't know
do
if you
that?
need a roll call. I think if we all put up our hands, yay or nay, I think that would kind of
Yeah,
move things along.
roll call will just delay the.
All right, so all-
proceeding.
all-
Not
in
like it's
favor?
contested or anything, so.
Right.
All in favor?
All in
say-
favor?
Raise your hands. Okay, are there any objections?
We have,
Anybody
I have
abstaining?
proxy ballots also from Marilyn and Brian, who are not able to participate today, and from Larry, but so Larry, only one of your votes is counting today.
You
Nice
can't
try,
have
Larry.
two
Appreciate it.
ways.
Okay, so then there being no objections, congratulations to Jerry. Good
Congratulations,
luck
Jerry.
in your next
Thank you.
4 years.
I'm honored to serve. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jerry.
All right.
Now the fun, oh, somebody has their hand up. I think it's Trudy.
Yeah, it actually works on the phone. Yes. Okay. I wanted to make sure that I was able to vote since I'm not on Zoom. Okay.
Yep, it worked.
Look at
It
that.
did work. Okay. *6 works. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good to
Thank you.
know.
And of course, I'm voting yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent.
Francine, you got a chance since you just popped in, your work was concluded. Are you supporting the election of Jerry as our chair?
Yes, I am. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. All right, so
Thank you,
everybody has
Francine.
voted,
Thank you.
everyone has voted in the affirmative, and so thank you all, and we'll move on. I'll yield back my time.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we as staff look forward to working with Jerry, as we do with continuing to work with all of you. And wait, and Francina came back. Wow. Okay. So speaking of staff, I'll give you a little bit of an update on where things are there. We've been very fortunate and had the opportunity to interview for an administrative assistant. And we've put forth an offer, and because of the process, we are hopeful that in the next couple of months, we're hopeful that before our next PCAC meeting, we'll be able to introduce you to the person who is our candidate, who we hope will be our colleague. We decided, we received over 700 applications for the administrative assistant position, and decided that we wanted to bring somebody on board who came from within the MTA. And so we are, the two finalists who we met, one was a subway conductor, one works in a bus depot, and either one of them would be a great addition, and both bring a wealth of interesting experience that would benefit the riders that we represent. So we will keep you posted. Larry.
How many people were you trying to hire, by the way?
So we have one more hire position that we're able to hire for at this time. That is a research and communications position. We have fewer applicants for that position. So the next step is to go through for that position, because it's a heavy writing position. We asked that cover letters be submitted with the job, with the resumes. And apparently that's not something that is a regular circumstance. And so they had to figure out how to make that happen. And so we now have the cover letters. So now that we've gotten our first round out of the way and we've made this offer, it's Bradley and I are going to start going through the cover letters and the resumes to see, who we want to bring in for those interviews, and then move those along. So we have
700 applications was encouraging, however.
Well, that was for the administrative assistant
Yeah.
position. Absolutely. There are 130 something, I think, for this position. So we still have to, get a clear sense of what our ultimate headcount is we're not filling Ellen's position, the associate director position at this time. Our next move is to get, after we get the next vacancy in place, is to work on Bradley's promotion, because I think that we all, I certainly, I know that I wouldn't have had any shred of sanity left whatsoever without Bradley to help to keep this ship steered in the right direction.
So are you saying that you have your total sanity is back? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
saying?
that
No, I'm
presupposes
saying
that you have sanity.
there's shreds of sanity that remain. So.
See, I was with Andrew. I just beat him to the punch.
And
I do also want to give a shout out. Bradley received a very high honor and was awarded, we were notified yesterday that Bradley was accepted to the Transportation Center's managerial program, for a summer management program, training program over the summer. So that's stiff competition for national programs. So it's really a very high honor, and it's very well deserved. So shout out.
Yes,
Yeah.
great.
So congratulations. Yeah.
Chris's hand is up. Don't know what topic, but Chris?
it's a topic that Lisa brought up about Bradley, because I'm glad she brought it up, because if anyone should be Lisa's second in command, it should be Bradley, because the man does the work. The man works very hard, and Lisa, I definitely agree with Lisa, because since Ellie left, Sheila left, Bradley does do the job. He does the walk, and let me tell you, I see when he does if we have an issue or a concern, he does get back to us as soon as possible. Because as a reminder, I know Lisa, you said this 100 times, that right now you two are stuck together. Right now there's only two of you. You have to give them patience and courtesy, because it is not an easy job what you two do right now.
Oh, I'm not sure we're
People
stuck
doing the work of
together.
five.
Yeah.
Well, well, either way, I'm just saying is
Yeah.
if
Thank
anyone
you.
should be your second command, Lisa, it has to be Bradley. So help me, God. Bradley.
Chris,
needs-
how much did Bradley pay you to say this?
Andrew, I'll tell you this right now. A bottle of hand sanitizer. None.
Okay,
I'm saying it from my heart, because I am New York tough. That's why.
All right. Thank you. No,
Oh
Thanks
my
for the
God, he's been
display,
watching
Chris.
too much of the governor stuff. He's New York tough. Oh, no.
right.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
We have received some return to office guidance. So we will be working with PCAC leadership and right now staff, which is Bradley and myself, to figure out when we are going to make that return to the office transition more completely. So no more view of this behind me or that behind Bradley. But that'll be over the coming months. And I think once we see what the MTA does in terms of their board meetings, and when those are returned to in person, that it might make in the fall time to have a conversation about how you all would like to see these meetings, if you'd like to see them in person, or if you'd like to see them continue virtually. And what, I think we get great attendance when they are held over Zoom, and good participation and the like. So nothing that we have to discuss now, just something to consider as we go forward for PCAC and for each of the councils.
so if we're not going to have that view, if you're going to be in the office, how will we keep up with traffic conditions on the Pulaski Bridge?
Right. I'll put a little camera. I'll keep
Long
my
Island
little
Railroad.
camera on.
Okay,
Right, or I'll move my I'll change the outfit on the bear.
yeah, we'll need a remote camera.
Right. I actually have a nifty new toy that somebody sent me that I haven't plugged in yet. That shows train movement. I have to see if it works, but that'll be the new backdrop.
Lisa, while you mentioned about the traffic, I was privileged to have had last week a visit to the Bridges and Tunnels Operations Center. on Randall's Island. And it was the first time, all my life living in New York City and metropolitan area that I had ever been to Randall's Island. But I did approach Danny DiCrescenzo, who is the president, about having a tour for PCAC, and he's open to it, at the appropriate time. So if anybody if they wanted to go and see what was actually going on there, they would be amenable.
And it was temporarily renamed Randy's Island while you were there.
Okay. All right. You
Yeah,
always
I
have.
heard that. Andrew, you're the one closing that rumor on the train station, the 125th Street and Lex again?
No, not me. I believe Trudy's hand is up.
Yes, it is. Since we're all compliments, Andrew, I'd like to dish one out to you. I don't know how many are news freaks like I am, but start watching the news at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And they on all the networks and the local stations and New York One, they all had about the hacking of the MTA. And I just want to say, as somebody who has spent my life dealing with the press and preparing people for interviews, that you were the best. You gave the most cogent explanation of what happened and how the MTA was handling it. So I usually don't say anything nice about you, but you really did it so well this morning. And I was amazed. You were awake at, 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it went on New York One. So
No, actually, we did it yesterday at around 6 p.m.
Oh, you did it last night. Well, it was broadcast this morning, and if those of you can get the Spectrum news online also, so everybody can see it, or maybe we should just send it out because it was really good. That's all. I don't know when I'm ever going to say anything nice again, so I will now mute myself.
Bert has his actual hand raised.
Yeah, I do. I think we overlooked something before. I think we have to thank Andrew for 4 fantastic years as head of this organization and the fantastic job he has done in presenting all of the things that go on.
Thank you so much, Bert.
Thank you.
Second that motion.
Absolutely.
Oh, it was an
I
honor and
agree
a
on that
privilege.
one. Andrew's done a great job.
And
Thank you,
we'll get you a certificate
everybody.
at some point.
An honor and a privilege to serve everyone.
How about we give him a medal saying Commissioner AA?
Yeah, you really did great.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. I mean, it continues to be wonderful. So Andy Pollock has his hand raised.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Couple of things regarding the Long Island Railroad, since Gerald is here.
So we're not on new or old business yet. I was continuing with my
Oh, okay, we'll save that later on then.
okay, great.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Andy. So I wanted to, instead of at the end, give you all an overview of the work that we're doing on our new website. Since don't want to miss out on that. We have been working, this is a project that Sheila was in charge of. And so it's been a little slower than we would have preferred because Sheila is doing other things with other people who are paying her now. And so we don't have the other set of hands and eyes with us. As you know, we have hired somebody to help work on the text. So the text that you see here is not the text that will be the final text. But this is the design that we're working on, or the design that's in place. And we will be, we're hoping that we're going to go relatively live or a soft live transition to live toward the end of June. So this is what we're looking at this point. This is what the homepage will look like, which you can tell is a big difference from what it looks like now. In each of the councils, will not say lorem ipsum dolor sit amet. There will be actual text, and scrolling down there will be the calendar, and then reports that can be either read online or downloaded as a PDF. A highlighted report, our Twitter feed, the ability to sign up for the mailing list and to take you to Facebook and Twitter, contact information. Each of the council, it will take you to an about page. I'm sorry, it's not fully functional right now, so that's why when I'm hovering over things, you don't see them all, but you can learn more about each of the council pages, about each of the councils by going to their individual pages. And again, the text is also a work in progress. So you'll see more, but you'll see here that the bylaws will be available for each of the councils, meeting minutes, authorizing legislation, which is currently not on each of the pages, and information on how to become a member will also be available by council. So there's a lot more in depth for each of the pages. This is the reason. Look, Jerry is the entire Long Island Railroad Commuter Council here.
Looks that way.
Yes, right. But the reason that we've been asking you for your bios is because, and we've gotten them from most people, not everybody, you know who you are. Trudy, kidding. No, we have several people who we're still awaiting on. Please, before we launch this at the end of June, our goal is to have it so that our consultants do all of the text uploading, so that me and Bradley and I have a minimal amount of text to upload because we have a minimal amount of time to do that. So each of the councils will have its own page similar to this, and reports that you'll be able to filter by council and sort by date. Will similarly you can pull up by date range. Commentary will include our testimony, blog pieces of items that are in the news media. It's a lot more robust. It's a lot more user-friendly. We think it's a lot more interesting, and we think it's a lot more reflective of the work that you all are doing and that PCAC is doing. So really happy to share that with you.
Is it your expectation that the pictures will rotate or will be static on that? Because what you just showed us obviously was a sample. And just out of curiosity, do you expect them to rotate? Are you going to ask that they rotate? Or
so I'm going to ask Bradley to jump in here too, because this is a question that we had anticipated was going to come up a couple months ago. Our designer is not a big fan of rotating pictures. We understand that is something that, and by the rotating pictures, I know you mean the home page picture, right? It's not really built to rotate, right, Bradley? But we can change them.
well,
regularly.
because we are three councils and represent riders of three different usage groups, although some obviously cross and use subways and buses as well as commuter rail, but either we have all three shown on the home page, which wouldn't be a terrible thing because we do represent all three rider groups, or we have one picture that rotates. And if you say the website designer is not a fan of rotation, perhaps there should be a Long Island Railroad train, a Metro North train, and a subway train on the home.
There is
And a bus.
So the
And a bus,
conversation,
yes.
the conversations that we've had with our website designer is that on this, Lisa, if you go to the top, please.
right. So this, you'll see that there are the different trains. There's not a bus, but yes, there should be.
Right. So this overall picture, I believe what he is trying to do is to make sure that the picture for the PCAC is at a location where you will have not only transit users, but you also have commuter rail users. So, Penn Station photos, Grand Central photos, and the like. And then when you get to the individual council pages, like Lisa said, Either there will be, you know, a picture of the trains,
Yep.
and we can always change those if we want to get, because there was conversations about having it be more people focused because we represent riders. So if we, once this is launched, if we want to change these pictures, we have the ability to do so. They just won't rotate.
Excellent.
So that, you know, each council will have their specific pictures tailored to them.
Great.
And we welcome your pictures.
Yeah, if you
We
have
can set
pictures,
up a
please send them.
Dropbox for those pictures so that we have more than just, you know, what Bradley and I take. And Randy, you take a ton of pictures. Everybody, you know, we can set up a Dropbox address that you can send us your photos.
Lisa, I have two questions if I can.
Yes, Stuart.
Something you had said earlier about whether we would want to continue the hearings virtually made me think of the website that the city council has. So if you wanted to watch a particular budget hearing or committee hearing, they have a link on their website where you could tune into the hearing or oversight review. Is that something we could do here with this website that, you know, encourage public participation or further tout what we do, create a screen or a page that would link people to the monthly meetings of the commuter councils or of the PCAC? And the second thought was, I haven't checked in a very long time, but are we referenced on the MTA website? Because there was one time where they were playing games, because we should certainly make sure they have the new URL when this website goes live. Just some thoughts.
Well, we're going to keep the same URL.
Oh, okay, great.
So definitely. And yes, we can certainly have the live link. I don't think it needs a separate box or screen, but there will be a link so that
That's for the web designers, but I'm just saying it could be something we tout that, you know, hey, watch us live or participate or share your concerns. I think it would be a great thing for all the councils, including the, you know, PCAC meetings, to increase participation.
And to speak to that a little bit, Stuart, right now, the way it's designed, the way we have it going forward with the new website is that when we have our events page, that really references our council meetings and the links are provided there. But I think maybe a great idea would be to, on our news feed that we have on our current website, we will have that on the new website. And maybe it's just something that we get into the habit of doing, of making sure to put that on our front page in addition to the calendar, which would be easy for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're making more work for you, Brett.
Well, it'll be for someone else at that point, hopefully.
So the one of the fun things that we're tasking with our new admin is a lot of website work. So we wanted to be sure that we could bring somebody in who was open to learning how to do it.
Chris, you have a question?
No, it's not a question. It's one thing I agree with Stuart, but also I just wanted, because when I do my website for the advisory council, yeah, there is the way of putting two pictures into one. You know, you could do a bus and a subway like that.
Yeah,
There is a way of doing it. It's in the new graphics system. So if you get a chance, look up the new graphics, because there are times you can cut and paste with PowerPoint sometimes now with the new Microsoft, and you can just go bam right into it, easy, and doesn't stress you. The other thing is Lisa, this is more for you and Bradley. Nice to see, you know, on the front page, but it would be nice to see like a little, like a PCA, something like shows PCA, something new, because, you know, like, okay, Lisa and Bradley, but something to say, welcome to the PCAC page, gives a little history, and at least, I know on the bottom it does show what different 3 other councils are, but we need to have something that shows like a little more, a drop more color, like something like a little something new color.
You mean not purple?
I was not going to say purple was the problem, but I'm just saying something in the background color, make them a little more, not too bright, but just in the flavor kind, just to make everyone's attention who we are and what the PCAC stands for.
So one of our ongoing struggles, battles, issues, goals,
Yes.
is to not rebrand right now. We thought that it was a big task to undertake to redesign the website without doing a wholesale change of the way that we're branded, like the PCAC and each of the council colors to each of the logos and things like that. So that's something we can look at going forward. Because we're, just because we're launching the site doesn't mean that it's that this is it. It means, this is what we're doing now. We can continue to play with it and feel it, but our goal is to get this out there. And as we work with it and adapt, we can see, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Well, we'd like to change this. We'd like to revise that. And one of the good things about this is that it's flexible enough that we can do that. One of the issues we have with our current website is basically if you sneeze at it, the whole thing crashes.
Yeah.
So we're very, we tread very, very, very carefully with it.
Or keep Kleenex nearby.
Yeah, or hand sanitizer. But
the current website is so non-user friendly. It really is.
Yeah.
It's better than other places, Andrew. But let me just ask this other question I was trying to get to. Main question is, when your website is done, are you guys going to do a grand opening?
We'll do a press release.
No, or like a press conference opening, because sometimes I know some people will do like a little thing just to get everyone to know who we are. Because I know other places, websites where they do like an anniversary or a reopening of a new update website, like announcing that the PCAC has updated their website. Please come on. Are you guys thinking of doing something like that at the end of June?
I don't think we're inviting anybody into any place.
Well, not in, but I'm talking about Zoom. Or do it on Zoom.
I don't know. We could consider that. That's not something that we're.
But yeah, we're not really looking at a big event, but something that's been in the back of my mind is that because of, again, it's just Lisa and I right now, that our intern Chow pulled together all the information for our annual report from last year. So hopefully we can get that done as soon as possible. And then that can coincide with, hopefully, if the timing is right, I don't want to make any promises, but if that can coincide at the same time, we can use the annual report to tout the website and draw people to the website. So at that point, they will know that we have a new website. But again, that's to be determined.
Right, but that's not going to happen at the end of June. So that's
no.
Right. So there's just too much that's going.
Whatever it looks like when it's first launched, it's going to be a huge improvement over what exists right now.
Right. We'll definitely let people know it's a new website and look forward to their, and to let people know. But
but we want everybody's feedback too. When you get a chance to look at it and try it out.
Yeah, it's just very daunting, Chris, for us to plan things right now that are not part of the work that is our legislative mandate.
Understood. No, I was just asking because in case somebody else asks me this question, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have been joined by our special guest.
We have. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, we have. So you don't have anything else, right, Lisa? You're done?
I am done.
All right, then. It is a great pleasure to introduce the MTA's Chief Safety and Security Officer, Pat Warren. Needless to say, safety and security are on everybody's mind these days. Yesterday, the hacking news and continued grade crossing. Fortunately, a lot of grade crossings are being eliminated or have been eliminated already, especially on Long Island. But there is always safety and security issues related to mass transit and all of the millions and millions of riders who use our system, which is hopefully growing every day back to its pre-pandemic levels. But Pat Warren is involved in every aspect of safety and security, from signals to track welding, to grade crossings, to cybersecurity. So let me introduce our wonderful guest, Pat Warren, the MTA's Chief Safety and Security Officer. Pat, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate being here, and it's always a pleasure to talk about what we're doing. It's not that the pandemic has a silver lining, I guess. It's that it has highlighted and brought to attention the value and the importance of having a quality system that in terms of quality of life experience as people get on the system. And not only in terms of just for those who've experienced it, in terms of, like, for instance, cleanliness, and how that makes you feel every day, and should feel that way every day, but also, of course, encouraging people to come back to us and reopening in New York City. So all that of significant value in keeping people healthy and safe. So with that, there's a couple of areas that we sort of focus on with primarily with regard to safety, and then I think you're particularly interested in, of course, is it's customer safety and what we're doing for our customers, and then the second piece is employee safety. Right now, the national rhetoric, dialogue, discussion, science, et cetera, is changing really, really fast, and I think that we all are aware of how guidance from the national CDC it changes just about every couple of days. Likewise, not too far behind that, the city and the state come up with addendums to those policies and instructions. And sometimes it's our own business, whether it's about how we open up the city or not. So it's right now it's sort of tricky to keep up with all those changes. But we are on top of them. Also, I'd like you guys to all understand that we spend a lot of time keeping focused on them, and then trying to figure out, because it's not often the guidance is not it may be easy to say, but it's not crystal clear to implement. So we have to sort of think through second and third order implications of what we're being asked to do, and how that might be how do you actually implement what's being offered up as guidance by these health organizations as we go forward. So so I'll start off with the question. One of the questions that we are often asked is, what are we going to do? What are we going to continue? What do we learn from the pandemic that we're going to continue, particularly in the safety world, as we go forward? And I think the one big thing that we've learned from it that we will continue to do is to keep our system on our trains, our buses, and stations much cleaner. The great outcry from enthusiasm from the populace who were riding the system was gratifying about cleaning how clean the trains, et cetera, are. And as me as riders, I appreciate it myself. So we recognize its significant value in terms of making the riders feel like it's a good place to be and it's a safe place to be, not only for COVID, but for in general. So that's something that we're going to keep moving forward with. One of the other byproducts of the COVID experience was and part of that cleaning enterprise was the shutting down of the subway system overnight, and it allowed us to begin to implement some of these more comprehensive cleaning programs, particularly on the subway cars and on the buses. And we a byproduct of that was by asking everybody to get off the trains so that we could do these thorough cleaning and particular disinfecting of the cars. We also asked all customers to leave the station, which caused a secondary action, which was that we saw those trying to shelter in the system having to leave the system. And if you recall, as the pandemic was heating up, people sheltering in the system became a sort of a chronic issue. So the best news about that was that the Department of Homeless Services really stepped up their efforts in terms of providing shelter and outreach to those individuals, to the effect of having over 800 individuals go into shelter on a more permanent basis than they ever have. We might have had 2 or 3 literally before, and to have 800 when you had on, you know, if you recall from the HOPE estimate count that just was put out, there was like 1,600 or so that was in the system. When you have 800 people take shelter, you know that you've brought down a significant number of folks that are sheltered in the system, and they're in a much better place. So we want to try to, working with the city, continue to and ask them to continue their efforts and outreach so that we can continue to provide not only a quality experience for those riders who want to come into the system and not have to you know, step over people who are laid out, et cetera, but also for those who are most in need of social service kind of help and hospital help, and they get that stuff. So that's an area that we will continue to put focus on and as we go forward. Recently, there's a lot in the news, and rightfully so. We did our own internal survey of our customers, and this sense of insecurity in our system is quite prevalent, and we certainly take it to heart, and to the point of you know, was part of the mayoral debates last evening, one of the questions. So it's clearly on the minds of the people of New York. We again see that as a quality of life issue, as well as just a safety issue and a security issue for our customers. And one of the comments that we continue to make is that while the chances that any one individual will be involved in some serious incident is not high, the chances of someone being exposed to a quality of life issue, it could be, you know, drug use, it could be you know, people smoking, it could be panhandling, it could be you know, people exposing themselves, you know, urination in the subway system, things that make people feel uneasy, and that the system is insecure. And the chances of people being confronted by those kinds of issues are significant. People do experience it every day, which leads to then, when you do hear about the more significant incidents, which are all horrific, that you feel insecure in the system. People are feeling insecure in the system, and again, rightfully so. So as we talk to the city and ask for greater support, both in the terms of policing and outreach efforts, hospitalization efforts, that is what's in our minds. Certainly, we don't want, and by the way, it's not all. It's much bigger than a homeless issue. I mean, homeless is certainly people that are challenged in the system, but you know, we have emotionally disturbed, we have those are substance abuse issues, and then just general crime. So there's a lot of folks out there that are challenged, that are causing challenges in the system, and we want to make sure that they're addressed. So we've asked for more. We ourselves are surging more police into the system, our own police, MTA police. We have at our own personal cost put more security forces into the system, and I want people to be sure that security forces, that they don't enforce any rules out there. They are eyes and ears. They do often talk to people and say, you know, you can't be laid out there. You need to leave, or they see somebody smoking or something, they might say they'll do something to it. But more importantly, they are going to report to the police, bring the police in if there is an issue, and provide a sense of presence, security presence in the system for those customers that are in there and looking for that they're not alone in the system out there. So we've just doubled the number of folks in there. We have about 200 of those security staff that are now in different stations. And then lastly, we've been asking the NYPD to put more officers into the system and to step up some of their activities for observations out there, which they have done. But we continue to ask, and why do we continue to ask? Until the people who are in our system feel and see a change, we can't give up on this, and that's our philosophy right now. that's the same on the outreach issue. We cannot give up on this. We want to make sure that people see officers, they feel like they're being the areas are being patrolled and secured in an appropriate manner, not in a some kind of heavy-handed manner, but just the fact you're present, you're there, you're looking into trains, you're perhaps riding the trains, you're walking the platforms, and just making sure that people feel comfortable. That is until that effect all takes place, we're going to continue to ask for more support and in fact do as much as we can in that regard ourselves. Also, on that note, and you've probably heard a lot about CCTV cameras lately, and we, and this goes more directly to these more significant incidents or to dealing with these more significant incidents. We are up the pace of putting cameras into the system to a pace that's greater than we've seen in the past. We've always been putting them in, but we recognize right now, as we try to bring the city back, that's important that we get to a point where we have these cameras, and they again provide a couple of different opportunities for us. One is that they will forensically help us identify those that may have committed a crime or committed some kind of act that then can be their picture will then be handed over to the police so that they can deal with it appropriately. And in some cases, there's live streaming, and that's to our command centers. And in those cases, there's an opportunity to look for issues that are out there, but mostly the issues that we'll be looking for at the command centers in the live streaming thing are issues of safety, like crowding and other challenges that are out there. It'd be pretty hard to pick out somebody who just does some quick act and think you're going to pick that up on a live screen. But we will have it. Everything is recorded. So we do have still some dark areas out there that we want to make sure that we have cameras in, and so that's why we're working so feverishly to put those in right now. But that's where the efforts are right now in terms of security that way. So that's sort of safety security as it sort of comes out of COVID, and it comes and we try to reopen up the city. So I'll stop there for a minute. I don't know if anybody has any questions on those particular topics, and then we can certainly talk about any other kind of safety topics.
Sure. Thank you very much, Pat. Does anyone have any questions for Pat? Yes, Chris.
Yes, I do have some concerns also because there's safety, accessibility for people with disability and seniors. With a lot of accessibility train stations being added into accessibility, there is concern of safety because some customers do have to walk towards the middle of the platform because some elevators are in the front or the back. Blue Moons, you get a middle elevator in the middle of the platform. Are we going to be also making sure increasing cameras definitely on the accessibility train stations in all the boroughs? And when I say all the boroughs, I mean all 5 boroughs, and as well as Long Island Railroad, because the concern is the customers, who pay their fares, get on a train, waiting for their train, and then you got the homeless people who may have mental illness or other kinds of issues. We need to, we really hope to see more safety, because the concerned safety I'm seeing lately are definitely on the A line, a little bit on the Q and B line lately now, because it's getting a little worse now. But there are concern of safety for a lot of people who are disabled and seniors, and some of them are in motorized wheelchairs or walkers. A lot of them, don't want to, they just want to be left alone and just get on a train and sit on a train and get where they have to go. And there are some people saying they feel safe. Some areas they said they don't feel safe. So are we going to be dealing with these safeties during also weekends and nights as well, especially rush hours? These are really concerned things that I'm hearing.
Yeah, so let me see if I can answer your first question about where camera placement. And when we look at a station, in this case a station, part of our calculus these days is to look at certain various aspects of them. So, and one aspect is elevators, both inside and outside of elevators. Another aspect is making sure that we have coverage of help points, and so that somebody's at those help points that we're looking at. We have ability to look at those locations. Certainly, we look at fare arrays, and fare arrays are are helpful on a couple reasons, but largely, if there's really is a bad guy out there, that they typically will go through it very sooner or later, and that provides the police the opportunity to identify them, more readily identify them, and do something about them. And then also we also look at emergency exit kind of areas and points where you can access the tunnels or the right of way from the platform. So those are general areas where we want to focus cameras. Now, let me just tell you that we are really have the pace up to put these cameras in. They have a lot of capability to look. They're amazing. The technology just advances all the time, so it's great. And so they're much more capable every time we put them in there. But it is a process that does take a little bit of energy. But we hope we will have our whole system with at least some kind of camera support by the end of the year. But we actually expect to have it much sooner than that, perhaps even by the end of the summer.
And I hope
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Andrew. I left out the buses as well, because right now we are seeing a lot of areas. I'm going to mention Brooklyn because I'm seeing this more in Brooklyn. There is concern of safety on the 2 routes in Brighton Beach that passengers are already attacked bus drivers. Hope as well as around the whole parts of Brooklyn going all the way to Bay Ridge. Are you planning also to work with the Eagle teams to maybe pop in around sometimes some of those lines as well?
Yes, it's a great point. And certainly we don't want our bus drivers harassed and or assaulted, and both of those 2 things occur unfortunately out there, and of course certainly we don't want that to happen to customers. Just interestingly enough, for people to know, quite a bit of our bus fleet does have cameras on it, so that is helpful usually after the fact when there's challenges that happen on a bus. So we have and we continue to put Eagle team out on bus routes. We are in the process of increasing the number of Eagle team members that we have as part of our surge to put them out there. They take a little bit of time to hire, but we just started that process a few weeks ago, so that we can have more Eagle team in the on the buses.
That's
and
good news.
Anywhere else we can put. But
Thank
I
you,
just want
Chris.
people to have great. Don't get your expectations so high that you don't realize the challenge here. There are 6,000 buses, or approximately 6,000 buses, that are moving around every day, and to have 6,000 security individuals on 6,000 buses 24/7, you might call it 3 shifts a day, is not feasible, right? It's not economically feasible. So it is an economy of force kind of thing, but we look at the data that's out there. We look for the lines, as you just pointed out, Chris, where areas are more, where there's more trouble being found, and try to focus our resources in the places that we think we can get the greatest effect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sharon?
I wonder, the police officers, how are they supervised and how are they instructed? Repeatedly, I see gaggles of 5 or 7 of them standing around talking or looking on their cell phones. Sunday, I saw 3 people jump over the turnstile, and less than 15 feet away, there were 5 police officers hanging out with each other. How are they supervised? Who are they responsible to?
So so first of all, there's 2 police forces that are out there, generally speaking, that are in the subway system. One of them is and larger and more predominant forces, the NYPD Transit Bureau, and then we also have some MTA police at certain locations. So there's a chain of command in the police forces that is sort of a paramilitary kind of chain of command that's out there. What you mentioned is not. It has been identified by many others too. So it's not something that doesn't go unnoticed. And leadership has been asked to address it. I can say that it is not perfect out there, as you just observed, But I also think that as I look at the system, and hopefully you look at the system, you start to see a much better look in that regard. In other words, more spread out across platforms and stations. And they typically work a minimum in pairs for security reasons, and it makes sense. And sometimes there's 3 because the supervisor might be there. But when they're working in 5s and 7s, that's not necessarily in my mind, unless there's something going on there that we don't know about that they're trying to deal with. But it is a topic that comes up frequently, and the police forces and the police leadership of those police forces are attempting to address it. And recently, in the last few weeks, I've seen a significant change in that, but it's not perfect yet, and there's more to be done there.
Thank you. Bradley and then Stuart.
Thank you, Pat, very much for joining us today. My question has to deal with the homeless, the 800 homeless being removed from the system and being placed in shelters. Do you have, and I know that this is coordination with the city, but do you have access to data that, a lot of people don't like to go into the shelters because they're not safe, so they end up coming back to the system? Do you have access to that information so you know who are the repeat people that keep coming back to the system, and what outreach efforts or whatever efforts would be best to address those who keep coming back to the system?
So it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We don't have constant access to that information. On specific cases, we can find out that information. We do recognize that there are sort of recidivist kinds of issues that are out there, whether it be for homeless that come back to the system or for other crimes. Not that homelessness is a crime, but crimes. We have concerted effort though going on right now, where we, the MTA, do a lot of a couple different things. One is that we have, I call it analysts or counters that are out there, and they're looking at the different train lines, and they're looking at the different stations, and over a 2 or 3 week period, depending on the system, if it's they try to get an accurate assessment for the entire day, for the 24-hour a day, of a line or a station, in terms of what kind of activity is going on there, how many homeless are sheltering there, etc. The gathering of the data has been very lightning over the last year, and we've really learned a lot, and we now share it with the city. It tells us, it allows us to identify locations where we see more homeless congregating, and other locations where there's less. And again, with resources are scarce, that allows us to apply our efforts in those particular areas. So there's this analysis of where we're seeing people out there. The second thing we're doing is that we've been doing this for a little while, but it's gotten so much better this last year. Part of it's because of COVID, some of it's because of the recent issues with security, where we have what we call roundtables, borough roundtables every month, where we bring together the NYPD, the MTA PD, MTA's Homeless Outreach Office, the city's Department of Homeless Services, and the NYPD's police, and we go over and our stations leadership, different stations leadership for whatever borough is in there. And what we do is we identify those cases what we find are chronic, and I think this goes more to your point, of individuals that are either at a location for multiple days, or they're doing, when they're there and they're seen there, it doesn't really matter how frequently or infrequently, if they're doing acts that are against our rules, and that we need to deal with, for example, relieving themselves or something in the system. And these are not uncommon, and they're gross, and they offend our ridership, and certainly they're not healthy for those people that are engaged in those activities. So through these roundtables, we then we set up groups, teams, we call them joint outreach groups, that go to these sites on different days and attempt to work with those individuals that are having these problems, if they can identify them there, and see if they can get them to into a shelter. In the case where we have people that are truly emotional challenged and issues and that should be hospitalized, we will try to bring in nurses and others that can help in that process. For others, we just encourage them, or we ask them to leave the station because they're not, those kinds of behaviors are not authorized, right? You can't in the system, but it doesn't stop them from coming back. And we found that with particularly people experiencing homelessness, that it is a constant kind of drip of working at them, talking to them to try to get them to accept services. It is we all love it to be a better system, but it's what we do. And again, as a MTA, as a transportation or agency, homeless is not our core competency. It's not our competency at all. But because we experience that circumstance, and our customers experience that circumstance, certainly we're in tune with it. And we again continue to ask the city for police and outreach services to help us with that, so that because that's where the responsibility lies to solve this problem, not only below ground, but also above ground.
And of course, you're working with BRC on much of this.
Yeah, and when I say Department of Homeless Services, BRC really is beholden to them. So I'm sort of saying the same thing when I say that. BRC is directly contracted with the city, and the city puts them in place.
Great. Stuart, and then Larry.
Yes, thank you so much. So your mission is very broad, safety and security. We, as a group, had seen a demonstration of some new air purification technologies, given their concerns with COVID and other viruses that are airborne. Can you shed any light on any progress that's been made regarding the exploration of new technologies or new concepts about cleaning air in rail cars or in stations?
Yeah, so glad to. So the first thing that we've done and continue to do and will continue to do was move up to the best filtration systems that would operate in our systems. So that's just regular filters, right? So we've done that, and we continue to do that to maximize that part of what we do. Some of these new technologies, and you're probably talking about some of the ultraviolet UV technologies that are out there. We did a lot of experimentation with not only with in conjunction with ourselves and the vendors, but also with the EPA, and essentially proved that those systems had an effect and were largely effective. The challenge for us has been that they're not necessarily logistically feasible in our cars and stations. So for instance, we looked at UV light for disinfecting in subway cars and in buses, but the amount of time it took to actually set that equipment up, leave it in that certain piece of equipment for a while, and then tear it down was just much longer than it would take for someone with electrostatic spray or whatever to go into the system. So that didn't work out. We continue to look at some of the UV air filtration programs that we piloted on the railroads, and so that process still is in play, but it hasn't gone to full production. We haven't decided whether that should go into full production or not, and certainly I can get back to you on that as time goes on.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we'd appreciate if you could share any developments, because the pandemic continues, though conditions are improving. But air quality is certainly an issue that's always been an issue in the subway. Thanks again.
The electrostatically charged air particle filtration that's being tested on Metro North and the Long Island Railroad, I think, is really exciting. That would be a game changer if that was successful.
Right, and if it could be utilized in subway cars as well, that's what prompted my question. So yes, I think we need to, as a group, monitor that. And
Yep. Thank you, Stuart. Larry, and then Walter.
Mr. Warren, first of all, thank you for joining us today. And I just have a question. If you do not want to answer this, I totally understand. In regard to the cyber attack, how bad could this have been? In other words, if from coming from the outside, what kind of damage could they have done?
So it would be pure speculation on my part to try to say how bad could damage be, and I really don't have a good answer. But let me say this. First of all, I think you all sort of get it that we, the United States, both our government, our military, and our industries are under a 100% attack every day, all day on our IT systems out there. It is relentless. It is, in some of us, it affects us through, our credit card getting hacked on a more simple level, but in other cases, it's much more significant, as we've seen in recent months with both the pipeline, gas pipelines, and recent meat packing stuff. We, and as a consequence, we, the MTA, we, and the other government and other organizations are continually, stretching for those systems that will counter any kind of cyber attack. So we and we've been largely successful to date, but there's no perfect system that we know of yet, and of course new attack methods continue to get invented every day, and you got to keep up on it. So it is our fervent desire, and we spare no expense at this, at trying to protect the system from these kinds of attacks. Well, the attacks fall into a couple of different categories. There's those of sort of the ransomware attacks, where they sort of grab a hold of some of your records, and they say, we're not going to give them back to you unless you pay us. So there's those kinds of attacks, and certainly we want personal information and that kind of stuff secure at all times. And then there's the questions about, can they get in there and disrupt some of our operational systems, which present more of a safety issue in the short term, or the immediate term. So those clearly are of deep concern to us, and we continue to put every effort we can into stopping them. And to date, we've had tremendous success. And every once in a while, there's a leak, and we plug it and we look after the problem, but have not suffered any kind of crippling attack, a successful attack yet.
Okay.
It'd be nice if these people would dedicate themselves to something beneficial with that kind of tech savvy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Well, they do for that.
Walter.
They get money. They get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Or ransom, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Andrew, can I just add on to that really quickly? Pat, if you could
Sure.
answer this. Do you get any assistance or sought out any assistance from the federal level, since this is, happening nationwide? Have you consulted with them, and what are they willing to offer? Or?
So yes, the short answer is yes. We are in constant communication. Our IT, our counter, our cyber terrorism groups are in constant contact with the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, on these issues. First of all, every time they happen, there's certainly we directly work with them and to share information and get assistance and support from them. Also, there are grants and funding sources out there that we do have access to, and trying to put into effect, not only on the cyber side, but also on just general counterterrorism stuff, like hardening our structures and tunnels and stuff like that.
Great, thank you. Walter?
Yes, I have a question about the Select bus service. I've ridden numerous routes on the Select system, and only once have I had a fare inspector check my ticket. And I'm just wondering if, it seems to me there's not much fare inspection going on out there. And I'm just wondering if you have any statistics as to the fare evasion rate on the Select bus system.
We do have some statistics. I don't have them with me right now. I'm glad to share them with folks. But so, again, there's a lot to look at out there, and it's sort of like the speed trap idea. You don't have people checking for speeders everywhere, but you have them in certain locations, and you've only been checked once, and hopefully that's enough to deter those who want to do something different, because it's impossible to have somebody on every bus. But again, we are looking to put more people out there. We're talking about hiring more Eagle Team just a few minutes ago. But again, it won't be a panacea. It won't solve that problem in a large sense. I want to point out that this is a cultural issue across New York, and I don't pretend to understand how it's come to be, but this is so much bigger than the MTA. This is people who decided that they don't have to pay to get on a bus. They don't have to pay to go on a subway train. To the point of where I watched it just the other day where some young kids, 4 or 5 years old, they run in ahead of their mother, run through the turnstile, run under the turnstile because that's sort of the standard, right? And run over and open up the emergency gate so that the mother can come in. It's taught from in a family sense. So this is a city cultural issue, and it's going to take the city to decide that they want to solve it. And it's not going to be solved by a few cameras and police unless the city really gets behind it, and the people in the city decide that that's what they want.
Walter raised an important issue. I used to see the Eagle Team fairly frequently. I haven't seen them in ages now on select bus routes all over the place.
Well, I trust me, they're out there, and again, we're hiring more, so hopefully you'll see them.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Andrew, to answer your question for the record, they were on the 82 SBS at Kings Highway train station yesterday, on Wednesday, for the record. They were there in the morning rush.
Excellent. Now, Pat, I think the absolute takeover of Omni and all door boarding is going to provide new challenges to the bus system.
Sure. Some good, some some less good. So your point about all door boarding is a bit of a challenge. But one thing that the new Omni will do is that those who do get on, the police and our Eagle Team and the like, they will have validators systems,
right?
But they'll be able to check to see if actually somebody did pay, which we can't do with a Metro card right now. So that is a plus.
Yes, that is a plus. Do you know, or are you supportive of a system whereby if you board and it's a rear door, that there be something that you tap there, and if you didn't tap, an alarm or something goes off to alert the bus operator?
So there is something to tap at the rear door. The Omni systems are at the rear doors. So because of the challenges from employee assault and whatnot, we don't ask our employees to try to enforce rules. Right. Now, some drivers and stuff, they will say, "Hey, you didn't pay," and whatever, it's something optional to them. But it is really sad and unfortunate and horrific when one of these so-called customers then turns around and assaults the bus driver. So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Lisa has a question, I think.
On the subways issue, perhaps a new fare entry system, which Andy Byford and I discussed when he was here. Something similar that's floor to ceiling, like AirTrain or some of the European systems. So it's not so easy to just get in. So
I'll come back to that in a second. Lisa, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. So, a big topic of conversation, sort of broadly, has been about people who are recidivists going back into the system. And I know that in Albany, there was legislation that was supposed to ban people who've been convicted of certain crimes from being allowed back in. Has that been in effect? And I think my recollection was that some of that had been passed, but I don't know that anybody has been actually barred from the system. And then if so, I know that there was some that there was still some legislation that was hoping to pass against assaults against operators. Do you see that happening before the end of session? And is there any last minute pushing, educating that we can do toward elected officials that might help to move that?
So with regard to the recidivist, first recidivist question, so there was a law passed, but it only was very narrow and it talked about sex crimes, right? So those kinds of assaults. And so, and I can tell you that the Sarah Feinberg and some of our other leaders have gone to several of the borough DA, the different DAs in the system here, and asked, and talked about, their efforts to deal with and bar these people and allow them to be barred. In general, particularly on the issue of sex crimes, there's, there is interest to do that, but to date, I do not know if there have any been barred. And so it's a good question. I think I'll research it myself. But the second part of it is that these DAs are reluctant to put these bans in place. I don't know why, but they've just often come up and said, we're not in favor of it, we're not going to do it, it's not going to happen. But to your point, we just had an individual the other day get arrested who had for an assault, and it was their 96th arrest in the system, right? And so and it's just just frustrating to us. It's incredibly demoralizing and frustrating to the police who have to deal with it, and then only to have it turned around. So these are kind of things that certainly, if you want to, your support and advocating with the city on how they handle those kinds of things would be greatly helpful, I think. In terms of assaults, and spitting was a particular one that's with the assembly. I can't tell you which way it's going to go or where it's going to happen, but it's certainly up there right now, and there is some support for it. So we'll see. And then to your question about gates and fair race, Andrew, so we started a couple months ago now, I guess, a working group where we're looking at fair arrays, and we're doing it for a couple of reasons. One is because it's often a question, as you just point out, people often talk about it anecdotally about, boy, I wish we had this or we wish we had that. And so the group is looking at, has a couple of charters. One is that they understand why we got what we got, why it happened, where we went to it. And it is sort of interesting to understand that, because some of it's all folklore or all told by mouth, and there's not a lot of documentation, or at least or when there is documentation, there's not an explanation of why the documentation is what it is. So we're identifying that and understand what we are, which is helpful. The second thing is that there's a pilot going on right now that we're working with on wide aisle gates. It was originally looked at with regard to the airport, and how can we get people not only who have disabilities but also people with luggage and strollers and other things through more quickly and more effectively into the system. And as we looked at that, we thought, boy, there's an opportunity perhaps here for a couple of results. And what not only could we get more accessibility for those who need it, strollers, et cetera, but we could also perhaps eliminate the use of slam gates, because as wide aisle gates would allow those people who needed to get out the ability to get out in reverse direction. So we're feverishly working on looking at that right now. But all of it, the science takes a bit of time. They got to build these systems, from scratch, and in some cases, and in others, they exist, and take a look at them. So, but we're pretty optimistic that we can do something different there. And I do believe that changing by eliminating some of the slam gates, or many of the slam gates, at least at chronic locations, will go a long way to solving some of the fare evasion problems.
Yeah, I think that will help. And some of the slam gates don't even lock automatically. You can't imagine how many I've had to report.
Yeah. And then as terms of the fare raise at large, we are looking at that also. Clearly, there are a gigantic capital expense, right, to change those out. We are moving towards getting ready for the next 20-year needs assessment kind of idea, and the fare raise as they exist today would reach their life cycle, at the end of their life cycle during this next needs assessment. So we're looking at it right now as an opportunity to figure out what we want different, what's potentially out there that could be valuable. So we're going to take a hard look at what's out there in the world, and is there something better that we can use. And just so you know, I mean, there's a lot of things you consider when you're looking at fare arrays, and one of the things that's sort of handy about the current fare array system is that other than the fact that it has when you swipe your card or you tap your credit card or phone on Omni, it only mechanical piece of it is unlatching a latch, right? Everything else is done by a human, the mechanical movement of humans to the turnstile, which makes for a much maintenance easy kind of system out there, as opposed to the ones that have the automatic opening and closing things. And so that's a consideration that I just throw that out there. That's a consideration we have to look at what's in the long run maintenance wise. How does that factor into it? Everything factors in. Something will weigh out more than the other, but those are the kinds of things that we'll look at.
And pre-pandemic, I believe the IG's estimate was over 300,000, $300 million a year of fare loss. So that's also a consideration.
Yeah, and so while we would love to, yes, right, that's exactly right. You're correct on that. And while we want to decrease that, I hope nobody thinks there's no system out there in the world except for ones that are free where there's no fare evasion, right? So you can't, it's not,
of course,
it's like homelessness. You can't.
But what this massive fare evasion does is mean more frequent and higher fare increases or service cuts, which is exactly the opposite of what everybody would like to see.
And again, I just always like to throw out that enforcement of fare evasion is we need the city to do it. We can't fix it ourselves, although we will do our part. We've just talked about fare arrays. We are looking at camera systems that help us identify places where there's more constant fare evasion and what time of days they are. So they're through some artificial intelligence kind of algorithms. And so we're doing stuff like that to try to, again, put our resources at the right place at the right time. But all that, takes energy and time and money.
Of course. One last question, Pat. The new cameras that are being installed, which is wonderful, are they obvious, or are they sort of, you'd have to know where they are to find them?
Well, I guess the short answer is we're not trying to hide them, but they're not big, right? So you really have to look hard to see them. The technology is such now that small cameras can really have great, viewing expanse. So, and pixelation and all that stuff. So it's, I don't, and by the way, we don't really haven't really had, first of all, vandalism of cameras, except for maybe a few locations where there's a swiper who doesn't want one above where he's trying to do his business. And most people who are doing, sort of spur of the moment crimes aren't smart enough to look for cameras.
Right. I think that is it. Don't see any other questions or hands raised. Thank you so much for your presentation, and we wish you the best of luck in continuing to carry out the MTA's important security and safety initiatives.
You're quite welcome.
Pat.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. It was a
Thank
great
you so much.
information.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we're ready for old business. Does anyone have any item of old business to bring up? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to raise an issue of new business? Seeing none.
Nope, Andy Pollock has his hand raised.
Yes,
okay.
Lisa, I had mentioned this to you on voicemail yesterday. So two concerns I have. First up regarding the Port Washington and Babylon lines. First on the Babylon, when are we going to get the half-hourly weekend back? Same with the Port Washington. We still don't know when that's coming back. And second, I just want to bring up quickly, there's some concerns at Bayside I've made attention to in the Queens Courier. So first thing about Bayside, I've been hearing that pigeons are moving into the bottom section of the canopy. The metal structure is been accumulating rust, and there's also a hole in one of the eastbound steel staircases. And the other parts of the canopy roof are in need of repair. So those are my concerns I just want to bring up.
Andy, do you have a picture of the staircase at all?
No, it was in the Queens Courier a couple weeks ago. So hopefully we'll get some clarity after June 13th regarding schedules, I would assume.
I do know, because I did ask Phil Eng about the Port Washington branch frequency, and there is some track work and other work that's being done, and that hourly frequency is allowing them to get this done. But he led me to believe in no uncertain terms that the old frequency would be returned.
So hopefully that would
be, could not nail it down to an exact date.
Right, because I'm hoping it'll be sometime later this summer then.
Yeah.
Yes, as that branch is 90% within the city of New York, and you know, it makes perfect sense that it be their half-hourly frequencies. Absolutely.
Right.
And Andrew, I'm just going to chime in regard to the pigeons. This has been an ongoing thing with not just that station, but with every station. And on the MTA has been trying to deal with it, bringing in wranglers to owls to, you know,
Spikes.
sound devices. They haven't found
wildlife.
Yeah. If you ever hear of anything that you know that works, please bring it to everybody's attention, because those pigeons are, how shall we say, resilient to everything. And they kind of like to attack and poop on people.
They're tough cookies.
Yeah. You know, there's not much you can do. I was at an event yesterday, and I was at Jacob Javits Center, and the pigeons, I was walking down the staircase, and these pigeons are staring at me like, how dare you intrude on my territory? So they're not scared of people. And if you have an idea or something, if you find something anywhere on the internet, please bring it to everybody's attention, because I would love to hear it.
That should be the next Genius grant.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. So have a good rest of your afternoon. I do have to get going. Take care. Bye now.
Make a motion to adjourn.
No, I'd like to just bring something up to everyone. I see Chris has his hand up, but Chris has been nominated and will be recognized with the 2021 Community Service Award by elected official, by Assembly Member Matilda Frontis in Brooklyn, in Coney Island in Brooklyn. So congratulations, Christopher.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And also, just to let everyone know that I also got a thank you by our CEO, Pat also announced saying, want to thank Christopher Wright who brought Mass Force to Coney Island. That's now fixed on the YouTube page now, Andrew.
Cool. Very cool.
Yes. And I'm going to enjoy this on June 17th. It will be on the Facebook page, from Matilda's Facebook page, but I will make sure I do everything in my power and make sure it's shared on that as well. I do have other new business, if permission to speak, sir.
Go ahead.
One thing I just did mention about Mass Force. The next Mass Force is June 17th. So the answer, Randy, from Metro North, they did put that out already. I already put it on the attachment chat, so make sure you have that information, because we really did good this month. In May we really did a good job. But they really want to see a lot more people come out. Please help out and do some more Mass Forces in the other boroughs, as well as Long Island Railroad and Metro North. So the more we can do to remind people to wear the face masks on the trains and buses. So that's,
and people are wonderful when you hand them out. I enjoyed my my time in Times Square. I mean, even if they don't want one, they're polite. They appreciate that you're out there doing this.
Yes, and especially when I did last week, I did between Kings Highway or all the way up to 36th Street. They were so glad to see me giving out the washables, especially for the little kids ones. You know, they have the kids one size now, and they're happy to wear them because now they said, I don't have to wear this little paper schmata, as one kid said, and he says the word schmata. So I'm only
Awesome. Yes. I thought you were bilingual for a moment. Very good.
Yeah, Chris, there's no locations that are convenient for me, so I'm gonna pass on June.
Yeah, there's nothing new I'm hearing. I know they just put the date out on that. So
I'm looking at it online here.
Yeah.
It's 100 Grand Central, the station, the subway, 149th and the Concourse 2 and 5, 145th ABCD, and Times Square. I'm looking for a Metro North location. Queens also.
I know that just to share with Jerry also, Atlantic Avenue Terminal, they do work with Long Island Railroad, so they do Atlantic Avenue, just let everyone know that. Because they do give out the maps, even they're in the same terminal because the base is right on the Manhattan bound 2 and 3. They do give out and they work together with the MTA police and Transit 32 at Atlantic Avenue. So
thank
that's
you.
being worked on.
Thank you.
Very good.
Before we go,
Anyone have any other business before we adjourn?
yeah, Andy, I'd like to add one thing. Lisa,
Yeah.
if you can share to the group the link to the video that I sent you about the East Side Access, I think everybody might get a good kick out of that. There was a video that was put together about East Side Access, and I was with the governor, and they ran it, and I sent Lisa the link, and I think if she shares it to everybody, it's a good little peekaboo about East Side Access.
Yes, actually, I was, when we were having Transit Riders Council, I was texting you, and Trudy also sent a link, and that is on my to-do list, so I will do that. Thank you for the reminder.
Hi, Lisa, didn't you get it? I sent it to you also. This is Trudy.
Yes, I did. I just haven't had a chance to send it. So
yeah, I
will
think
send-
I don't know, since I'm on the phone, I don't know who said that
That
they
was
sent it in also. Who was that?
Larry.
Larry
Oh,
Rubis.
Larry, I sent it in also. I also sent the best coverage that I saw of the whole day, which was on Channel 4, NBC Channel 4, their news, and I sent that in also. So if anybody wants to see a longer thing, they can either go on YouTube and get the Channel 4 coverage, or Lisa, I think it would be very helpful to everybody if you can just send the link to the video.
I'll look at the videos. I just haven't had a chance, but
No, just send the link. You don't have to look at it or anything else.
I want to make sure that it's not that. If
It's
you
what?
sent one and Larry sent one, I want to make sure that it's, that they're.
It's the exact thing. It was what was put out by the governor's office. And it's a 4-minute video. No, less than, but Larry, I forget how long it was.
Yeah,
but it's very short. Yeah,
Okay,
and it's
fine.
right
But
to
they
the
will-
point. You don't have to, that's the official video about East Side Access.
It is.
It has Jono,
Trudy.
it has everybody else.
Trudy, I'll take care of it. Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Next meeting is the 9th of September.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was a great presentation we saw today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.